What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So I recently played the new update on my Series X for Gotham Knights, and there are a few things that I did notice, and I wanted to talk about just extensively what I think Gotham Knights can benefit from post-mortem, in a sense. The game is already out. The developers have already learned a lot of lessons. Their situation and their scenario with their publisher, not necessarily the most conducive, but they made it work. Now, if you think about this game, you think about a few things. When you're playing the game on PC and console, there are two different experiences. In fact, the difference in regard to how the game runs is going to clue you in. If you play both versions, or if you've played both versions, you'll know that, man, these are two different experiences, and I'm certain that anybody who probably plays the PC version will tell you that the console version is very different. I played on console at launch. When the thing first came out, I basically dropped my first 14 hours on the console version before I started playing PC. And I can tell you that this game on the console, even though, yes, playing at 30 FPS requires for you to change up how you play because of your input and your actions and, the plethora of things that you have to do, this game needs to benefit from an FOV slider. It doesn't have an FOV slider on console, which I understand that many games on console don't have FOV sliders. Atomic Heart just recently came out, and FPS, a game that actually requires, for the most part, an FOV slider when you're fighting hordes of enemies. They couldn't get it on the consoles because I'm thinking the consoles probably could not support all of that. It does affect performance, if you were wondering. But I think the developers now, Warner Bros. Montreal, have room to be able to add this quality of life because I think it's going to resonate for their next game. I also believe that Warner Bros. Montreal, probably at this time, can leverage the fact that Avalanche is being, in a sense, given all of the opportunity that they can be given to make the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions of their game work. Now, in the case of Warner Bros. Montreal, they had to cancel their PS4 version, and even Digital Foundry in their interview said the only thing they can see as a PlayStation 4 problem will be maybe the multiplayer side, which for those of us who've played the multiplayer now, we realize that it's actually kind of laggy. In fact, I was talking with a colleague at work, and they've been playing Gotham Knights just recently with their sibling, and they told me, they were like, man, the only problem we have is when we're playing together. It's a lot of fun, but the game just gets super, hard to run when we start playing multiplayer. Even on PC, we have that challenge. So by and large, a PS4 version of this game would have probably had to be only a single player version, and Sony ain't going to allow for that, and Microsoft's not going to allow for you to bring out just a single player version of the game and not have it on parity with the other versions that are available. So I think for them, the best thing they could do was cancel those versions. We're also seeing talks right now surrounding Baldur's Gate 3 and the developers not being able to run the game and its co-op version on the Series S, thereby leading people to maybe think that it might be time for them to start allowing for concessions for these games to have different versions if you don't have the hardware, because Microsoft and Sony make developers actually sign these agreements that they're going to make sure that their game is on par with every other version of the game as much as possible, except for frame rates, because, again, console machines are kind of limited. They always have been. I keep telling people this stuff, and they tell me they spent $500 and they expect to play at 60 FPS, and I laugh and I say, yo, you can pay $1,500 and not play at 60 FPS even on a PC. Tell Hogwarts Legacy that I said that. I have a 4090 and I cannot play at 60 FPS at 4K. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Let's just not get into that conversation because it burns everybody. It burns me maybe a few times more, but I don't really want to air all that stuff out here. But I do think that the developers here at Warner Bros. Montreal can actually go for that rebuilding of the game to get a 60 FPS. I know there's a lot of work. For some reason, if there are any YouTubers out here that actually look at game development, I would say it's me and one of my colleagues that does the Division content, Identity. He's making his own game right now. He and I, we kind of started out learning game development almost the exact same time. I think I was like maybe 3 months ahead. And then I said, yo, you want to take a look at this? And boom, the dude's making his own game on Steam. That's insane. And so when you think about all the work that they have to do, seeing that Avalanche is being able to kind of like optimize their game or rebuild, that's not an optimization thing, for the PS4 and Xbox One could probably give them the leverage to pitch a 60 FPS version for the PlayStation 5 and for the Series X. I think it's going to go a long way. I think it's really going to go a longer way than they think it will, especially when it comes to the possibility of them being able to leverage the goodwill for their next title. Because that's one thing a lot of people don't necessarily pay attention to, because their next title, in my opinion, is really going to either benefit from or at least gain from whatever it is that they're able to continue to do with Gotham Knights at the moment. And I understand that some people probably don't necessarily think that, the developers are supporting the game. I think they are. You have to support your game. It's impossible. You got to continue to do bug fixes and continue to make your game, attractive to continue future sales. So if they're able to pull off these few things with all of the quality of life, changes they're making and the optimization changes that they're doing, and then go for a big 60 FPS update and maybe even pair it with DLC, I think it's really going to change the entire look of the game. If you want to play the game on 60 FPS at this moment, I would say go on PC, if you can, if you want to do it or if you can do it. But for the most part, like, the console version still rocks. But I will say that there seem to be some drawbacks, which you do see in other video games. And I'm sure somebody might jump in here and say, well, calm down. Other games that have been able to execute the FOV sliders eventually did them later. I know some of them. I play some of them. Like Tom Clancy's The Division 2. The Division 2 was one of those games where its FOV slider came kind of late to the party. I remember, at the time when it showed up, a lot of people were like, man, this is actually pretty cool that we get to actually play The Division using an FOV slider, which is actually pretty nice. It does make things, run differently, especially in a third-player game where you have enemies that try to maybe run around you and flank you. Their behavior is different. And if you think about a game like, say, Arkham Knight did not need it. Arkham Knight, your enemies for the most part kind of gave you an indication that they were coming after you. And they didn't try to flank you all the time. In Gotham Knights, they're constantly running away to try to gain, the drop position on you, especially a lot of the, projectile-based characters or, all the enemies anyways. They just want to kind of get out of your periphery and surprise you at any given moment that they possibly can. So this is something that I believe that the developers would definitely, benefit from, and the players would definitely, improve their enjoyment in the game overall. In fact, the game is kind of designed like it was begging for an FOV slider anyways because of the enemy behavior overall. But these are my thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.